Now, when most of the Jain population was here in Magadha, a famine hit it. And so, a few people decided they'd go from Magadha to south. And so, this is how they went from Magadha to the south part. And this was headed by Bhadrabahu Swami, who was a very important Swami back then. And a bunch of people followed him. Now, after 12 years, what happened is that the famine ended, and the people who were living in Magadha, they had an easier lifestyle. So they started wearing clothes, whereas the people who had followed Bhadrabahu Swami to south, they did not wear clothes and they followed the previous followings of Jainism. Now what happened is that these people who had gone to the south, they came back to Magadha and they saw what was happening. They saw that these people were now wearing clothes. So a dispute now arose between the two groups that were now there, right? And so a meeting was held in Patliputra in 300 BCE. And in this meeting, it was decided there was going to be a division, now going to be two sects, Swatambaras and Digambaras. So let's see who these people are and what the differences are between them. So the first difference that is of prominence is the fact that the Swatambaras, well, it meant white clad, whereas the Digambaras means sky clad or naked. So the Swatambaras, they are allowed to wear white robes and they also cover their mouths and nose with a piece of white cloth, so they don't inhale small insect and kill it by mistake, because Ahimsa is a very important practice of Jainism, right? So now in Digambaras, well, they were the people who had followed Bhadrabahu to South India, right? So these were the people who stuck to old practices, and so they do not wear any clothes as they have given up their clothes. According to them, nature is their best cover. So, as we said that the Swatambaras, well, they were the people who stayed in Magadha during the famine, right? However, the Digambaras were the one who followed Bhadrabahu to South India during this famine. Now, so the Swatambaras, they fast often and don't lead a very strict life as compared to the Digambaras, because they follow strict path of austerity and give up all worldly possessions along with their clothes. So from this strict path we can understand that in fact the Digambaras were the people who were following the original teachings of Mahavira, and they were much more strict and much more hard on with their rules, whereas the Swatambaras, they were much more lenient and much more flexible, as we already saw that they don't lead a very strict life. Finally, both the Swatambaras and the Digambaras, they interpret the teachings of Mahavira in a different way. So these are the major differences between the Swatambaras and the Digambaras. Digambaras were the people who were following the original teachings of Mahavira, whereas Swatambaras were now the sect that was divided after this meeting in Patliputra in 300 BC. And so these people led a much more lenient, much more easier lifestyle. And finally, Bhadrabahu, about which we just learned about, he was the last Acharya of the undivided Jain Sangha. Now, let's take a look at their idols. From taking a look at these idols, we can understand the difference that was there between the Swatambaras and the Digambaras. For example, this is a Swatambra Jain temple, and in this you can see that the idol has been decorated. He's wearing a loin cloth, and he has eyes that you can see. So he has very prominent staring eyes. Whereas if you take a look at the Digambara Jain temple, you can see that he is not wearing any clothes, and his idol is not even decorated, and you can see his downcast eyes. So you can even understand the difference between these two sects by simply taking a look at their idols. So now, during the later Vedic age, the people, the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas, or the upper caste people, they used to talk in Sanskrit. This was also the language in which Vedas were written down. So the Vedas were written in Sanskrit and they were the religious books, right? So because of this, only the upper caste people could read it. Because the common people, well, they used to speak in Prakrit or Pali. So because they could not read their Vedas, they felt further away from God, right? They felt disconnected from God. And so what happened? Well, Mahavira, he himself was from a Kshatriya household, right? And so he knew how to speak in Sanskrit. But what do you think? Which language do you think did he preach in? Well, Mahavira taught in Prakrit, which was the language of the common people. Well, why did he teach in Prakrit language? Imagine that you go to a village and you want to buy something, right? But if you talk to the villagemen in English, which they do not understand, then they won't be able to understand what you're trying to say to them, right? Whereas if you talk in the common people's language, well, if you talk in Hindi, what will happen? The shopkeeper or the village person will easily understand you, and you will be able to complete whatever tasks that you wanted to do, because he is understanding the language that you are talking in, right? So there is no language barrier, and this is exactly why Mahavira taught in Prakrit. Another thing that happened after this was that Prakrit as a language got a boost, right? And so more and more people started using Prakrit, and this is also how Jainism further on spread. So, can you answer this question? Mahavira taught in dash language: English, Urdu, Sanskrit, or Prakrit? Well, the correct answer is Prakrit. So, we already know that Mahavira preached at various different places. Take a look at this map, and here you can see the places that have been marked in blue. Those are the places where Mahavira preached. So, he preached in Magadha in Bihar, Kosala in Uttar Pradesh, and Videha in Nepal, near Nepal. Right? So these are the places that Mahavira himself preached in. Other than that, in Rajasthan, Gujarat, South India and Orissa, new Jain monasteries were now being made. Other than that, several South Indian dynasties such as the Gangas, Kadambas, Chalukyas and Rashtrakutas helped the spread of Jainism. Now let us see the impact of Jainism on our Indian culture. Well, you see, Jainism promoted equality, which attracted people. Why was it so? Well, because during that point of time, there was the caste system. This was during the later Vedic age, and according to this caste system, few people were more important. These were the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas, who were exploiting the lower caste people, who were the Vaishyas and the Shudras. And now because of this exploitation, some people were really tired, right? So now when Jainism came, these lower caste people, they saw that there is no concept of caste system in Jainism, and so from Hinduism they were instantly attracted towards Jainism, because they understood that here we will not be exploited. So this is how equality was promoted and it attracted people. Other than that, as we already know that Mahavira preached in Prakrit language, which was the language of the commoners. Prakrit got a boost. Before this, Sanskrit was considered very important. It was the language in which the Vedas were written, and so it was a godly language, right? However, after Mahavira started preaching in Prakrit, Prakrit language got a boost. Now, the most important teaching by Mahavira was Ahimsa. What was Ahimsa? Ahimsa means non-violence. So Jainism also promoted non-violence, right? According to which people should not hurt anything, any living things. But this had a problem. How did this turn out as a problem? Well, you see the Kshatriyas, who were the soldiers and the kings, well, on adopting Jainism, gave up fighting. So the Kshatriyas were the soldiers, right? They were the people who were protecting the kingdom. But what happened? After they accepted Jainism and its teachings, mainly the teaching of Ahimsa, they decided to give up fighting. Now because of this, what happened? The kingdom was now open to foreign invaders. So people could attack the kingdom now, and the kingdom was no longer safe. So the country's defense was at risk, which was a problem. Because of this, there was now fear in the minds of common people. So now let's take a look at the reasons behind the spread of Jainism here in India. Firstly, the role of Mahavira. Well, Mahavira played a very important role because his teachings were so good and so inspiring that a lot of people accepted Jainism. So as we know, in Jainism there were 24 Tirthankaras, Mahavira being the last and final one, right? So he was in fact the person who shaped Jainism into what it is today, and that is why the role of Mahavira here is highlighted and is important. He used the common language, which was Prakrit, to preach. So because Prakrit was the common tongue, more and more people could now understand the doctrines of Jainism and could accept it. So this also led to the spread of Jainism here in India. Other than that, the doctrines, the rules and regulations in Jainism were really simple. The concept of Ahimsa was there, which just meant that we should not be violent, we should always be truthful. So the rules were very much simple, and there were not a lot of rituals and sacrifices that were there in Hinduism. So this really attracted a lot of people who could not afford such rituals and sacrifices, right? Other than that, the patronage of rulers. So they got a lot of support from rulers. So the patronage of rulers such as Chalukyas, Rashtrakutas, Gangas and Kadambars, along with Chandragupta Maurya, also led to the spread of Jainism. Along with that, the famine that happened, because of that, Jainism also spread to southern parts of India. Now, the role of Jaina monks was another important one, because these Jaina monks traveled from one place to another to teach about their religion to the common people, who saw how these monks were spending their lives and were really inspired by them. So the role of Jaina monks is another important thing that led to the spread of Jainism here in India. Lastly, credit has to be given to Jaina writers as well, because they wrote literature which attracted a lot of people, and now the people could read what Jainism was about, and so that also attracted people to come and join Jainism. So these were the various different reasons behind the spread of Jainism in India, and so many people started following Jainism, and even today there are more than 7 million followers of Jainism throughout the world. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free on DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app and get easy access to more than 5,000 amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million-plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and get a chance to win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So, at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it's rewarding too. So, register for free now.